right, I want to start by asking you about opportunities with AI. What are we seeing in terms of real-world applications for artificial intelligence?
So I think we have to be very precise in the way we define things, because a lot of people confuse AI with machine learning. So today, machine learning, which is consuming all of this massive amounts of information and then built on algorithms, be able to make sense of it, this is heavily leveraged in the security industry today. When you take a look at Cisco, we look at billions of events every day, hundreds of billions of emails, 150 billion URLs per day, about 5% of the network goes through our infrastructure. So it's impossible for humans to try to transact that information. So we heavily leverage machine learning. Artificial intelligence is slightly different in the sense that it's trying to understand a behavioral outcome to make it actually look like a human. So there are bots out there and things trying to convince you that you're talking with an individual and give them your credentials or whatnot, but it's still very nascent. You know, the kind of brute force mechanisms of just being able to grab your credentials and whatnot, whether it's phishing or whatever, is much easier still than the true application of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, that's a fair distinction. I usually think of artificial intelligence as being kind of a qualitative or descriptive term that isn't very precise.
No, I understand. And by the way, sometimes it's just a marketing term now used for big data analytics. But it really is, I'm going to learn patterns and do all that to recognize people and try to actually convince you that I have intelligence, that there is something behind me. So when you deal with your voice recognition or something, that's artificial intelligence. But we don't really use the same technology. We're more on machine learning side in the security space.
So let's switch gears a little bit. I'm hearing some things about people using blockchain for identity management, for securing IoT. What's Cisco doing in those areas?
Yeah, so we are now looking at blockchain, but from a slightly different point of view. One of the key pieces of a ledger inside an enterprise is their supply chain. So making sure that the chips that you got, the boards, or whatever technology has this ledger so that you know its origins and you know that someone is not inserting something that may produce vulnerability into your supply chain. So having an open ledger on the supply chain side of who's doing what is work that we're doing and looking at it from a security perspective. We haven't done it really on the identity piece at this point, but the supply chain and quite frankly, supply chain attacks now are becoming more prevalent in the industry, and this is why we're taking a look at it from that perspective.
So basically you're looking at it from an anti-counterfeiting.
Exactly, a complete transparent ledger, making sure that you understand exactly what is going into that box and has, or software or whatever, and has a history.
Yeah, so each individual component of the system that you're getting.
And is certified and works itself back, yes.
All right, so in general, with regard to telcos and communication service providers, what are the opportunities we're seeing there in terms of managed services for security?
Yeah, this is a big area and a large area of focus, particularly on the telco side. Telcos have a long, rich history of going into managed security, being able to send out CPE and build services on that. But of course, we also see as threats become more sophisticated and attacks become more comprehensive, enterprises simply can't keep up. And so we see a shortage in the industry of qualified security engineers and professionals. And so managed security, going in and actually saying, I'm going to take over that whole responsibility for you, is one way of moving up the stack. And I think the telcos are in a prime position for that because they serve a market segment that really needs that help.
Okay. So talk a little bit more about the complexity. How is the enterprise security story growing more complex?
Well, so the attack vectors continue to increase and become more sophisticated. Now, just when you think you may be protected in one area, crypto mining or CPU hostage is always something new in this dynamic. And so from a security perspective, if you're an enterprise trying to respond, you always have to keep up with the latest. And so, it was in the past pretty simple, then malware, then crypto mining, then all these other things. As enterprises try to keep up with this, at some point you realize, look, my core expertise is serving my customers and differentiating myself in the market. How can I keep expending this energy and expense trying to keep up with this? I'll take that and outsource it to somebody else who has a trusted brand, I have a trusted relationship and whatnot. And so that's the kind of market motion that you see.
Okay. So what are the upcoming threats? What do we foresee in the crystal ball for 2019?
Yeah, I think the biggest two are crypto mining continues to go. As crypto mining, if you can mine and harvest CPU cycles without having to exchange Bitcoin or hold somebody hostage or whatnot, the return on investment is much easier with a much lower risk of getting caught or penalties for getting caught. We also see, quite frankly, a lot on the IoT side because a lot of IoT, particularly in the commercial space or the consumer space, is built for low cost. And so convenience and whatnot has passwords built in and things that can easily be susceptible to threats.
So you have webcams for home use that have hard-coded passwords.
Exactly. And we've seen some of these video cameras, as an example, go and provide an amplified denial of service attack against DNS and whatnot and really affect the network performance.
Yeah, so like 50 years ago, if you said my toaster oven and my refrigerator are conspiring against me, people would think you were a lunatic. And
yeah, now they are. Yeah, or may hold you for Bitcoin ransom or something. Yeah.
Now, why is crypto mining a threat?
Mm-hmm. Because it's using resources that you're paying for. You have bought those resources to transact your business, and it's being hijacked to be diverted into an alternative that you may not be aware of. And so it's not the threat in the traditional sense of taking data or hijacking you, but it's still an expense and puts you at a relative disadvantage if you're reliant on this computational power.
All right, let's leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Mitch, it's always a pleasure. Thank you.